Welcome, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Self live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live from Mobile, Alabama, as PewterReport.com gets ready for the Senior Bowl. But before we get into the prospects that could be future Buccaneers, we got to talk about who's going to be the offensive coordinator and all the news surrounding that. So I'm the host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, literally right next to me, is my fellow colleague in the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com. It is Scott Reynolds. Scott, we made it. We're all here in one piece.
Yeah.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
We are, Matt. And the Senior Bowl is always fun because you get a chance to see these players up close and personal.
Yes.
Not just watching them play football, but actually getting a chance to interview them, getting a feel for their character, their personality, and also getting, an up-close instance to eyeball these players to see exactly how they stack up measurement-wise. And, that's always important as well. I remember sometimes you come to these events and you have a player that's measured at 6'4", and then he ends up being 6'1", right? And sometimes the colleges they fib and fudge a little bit on their measurements. Then they get the official NFL measurements here, and then it's always fun to see players grow or shrink by a quarter of an inch as they go to the combine too.
Yeah,
right?
and the first thing that reminds me of is last year one of the biggest storylines was Kenny Pickett and his hands.
Right,
or his hands not big
That's
enough.
right.
And I, for those that maybe only follow the Bucs and aren't as in tune with the draft, the Senior Bowl has produced some of the best players in the NFL. I mean, Jalen Hurts was in this a couple of seasons ago, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. So Justin Herbert as well. So there's a lot of great talents that come through the Senior Bowl, and we want to make sure that you guys hear about them first on PewterReport.com before you hear it anywhere else, because some of these players will be future Tampa Bay Buccaneers and future players in the NFL. So it's a very exciting week for sure, just seeing all the prospects.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing, too, that makes this week interesting is they could be looking at a new offensive coordinator hire this week. Sometimes the Senior Bowl is used as a job fair, and you might see some of these candidates that they're interviewing this week. Todd Monken from Georgia, and also Shea, Tierney, the New York Giants head coach. They might be here in Mobile, although I asked Todd a couple of days ago if he was planning on being in Mobile. He said he was. And, of course, the Buccaneers can conduct these interviews virtually because of technology like Zoom and StreamYard and all these things, like we're talking to you guys here from Mobile on this. So that's Shea Tierney, Giants quarterbacks coach, and he is one of the guys that's on deck next. And, of course, Todd Monken, another one of those guys, former Bucs offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach under Dirk Cutter. Then he went to Georgia and became the offensive coordinator there, won back-to-back national titles. So those are the two newest names to interview. What we did hear, though, was that Dan Pitcher was a very good interview. This is the Bengals quarterbacks coach, and ironically enough, after he interviewed with the Buccaneers and got some interest from the Ravens, Matt, the Bengals gave him a pay raise and an extension. So they're trying to keep him. The problem is with their quarterback, Joe Burrow, playing so well, they want to keep him intact. But then also, too, the fact that you've got this Bengals offense is clicking. This guy's highly sought after. And I don't think that Cincinnati wants to lose him. That's pretty obvious with the contract extension. But he's obviously getting a lot of play. And, he's an interesting name to keep in mind.
It reminds me a little bit, if you recall, after the Bucs won the Super Bowl, they gave Todd Bowles the biggest contract among defensive coordinators.
Right.
So, they obviously want to reward him there. The Bengals, although they lost in tough, dramatic fashion in the AFC Championship game yesterday, they are still obviously a team that is going to be a powerhouse for seasons moving forward because of Joe Burrow. But it's interesting with Pitcher, his background, he went to SUNY Cortland, which is not known as a powerhouse for college football. I actually know where that is. It's in upstate New York. I applied to go to school there, but many other people would actually know where SUNY Cortland is. And then he got his startup with the Colts, if I'm not mistaken, before going to the Bengals. I think it's, and we talked a lot about this, Scott, where we're going to hear the big names like Todd Monken, as you just talked about before, but then we're going to hear a lot of names of not household players, not guys that you talk about on ESPN every single week. And I think pitcher kind of falls in that category. But I like the fact that whether it's pitcher, whether it's Tierney, they're looking at different options, not just, oh, this guy has offensive coordinator play calling experience. Like, they're actually going with someone that works with specific talent, that has made talent a lot better, especially in Tierney's situation with elevating the game of Josh Allen when he was a quarterback's coach with the Bills. And then obviously getting the best out of Daniel Jones when that was a huge, huge question mark going into this season. And obviously going with Brian Daboll turned things around for Daniel Jones. The Giants have their own decision to make this offseason. But, we'll see if any of them end up going to the Bucs.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, with Todd Monken is you talk about developing players. I mean, Stetson Bennett was a former walk-on backup player, and he ends up beating out a guy in JT Daniels, who ended up transferring away from Georgia. And at 5'11", 190 pounds, Stetson Bennett became a Heisman contender this year and back-to-back national champion. So it's just kind of crazy, how Monken was able to really develop not just a talented college quarterback, but really to make a walk-on a very talented college quarterback as well. We got a super chat here from Bucs Basement. Appreciate that. When you go on JP's show next, ask him about the source that told him over the weekend that Tom Brady's definitely coming back to the Bucs if he plays. I will try to get that information from you. We've always kind of maintained that Tom Brady, there's a pretty decent chance that he does return to Tampa. And if we had a story over the weekend, Adam Schefter had the story first.
Yeah.
But the Dolphins are out of the running right now, right? And that was, I think, maybe one of those teams that were very, with the close proximity to his children now living in Miami, that was maybe a team that Tampa Bay had to be concerned about. But they're going all in on Tua Tagovailoa, which is kind of crazy because of the concussions he had this year, Matt.
Absolutely. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm not putting all of my faith into it, mainly because of the injury history and situation that he's involved within right now. But he also had, one good season. Outside of that, the jury's really been out for Tua. So if the Dolphins believe they're in a win now mode, and obviously they are with, trading for Tyreek Hill and, they bring in the new coach, McDaniels, with the innovative offense, why not go after Tom Brady? I mean, this is a great thing for the Bucs because if Brady did want to keep playing and want to move somewhere else, sure, you can connect all of the dots about why he would go to Miami. But if Miami doesn't want him, that's a huge, huge win for the Bucs. I mean, we're talking about last year. It was, okay, he's going to be a partial owner
That's
of the Miami Dolphins. And now it's like, hey, we want nothing to do with you.
Maybe it was the tampering. Maybe that.
Left the sour take.
It lasted, a little bit of a flirtation. Then all of a sudden they lost the first round draft pick. The owner got suspended. They got fined. So maybe that Tom Brady soured on them. But Kellen Moore was a name on maybe the Bucs right out for a second, but it seemed like right from the get-go he was going to go to the Los Angeles Chargers, and he did. And interesting because they parted ways, I think mutually, but you could kind of tell that Mike McCarthy wanted to go a different direction, his own direction, calling the offense. And I tell you what, Mike McCarthy, if Sean Payton doesn't land anywhere this year, and it's really interesting because Sean Payton is a very sought-after guy, right, for his offensive prowess and head coaching success. But rumor has it he's pricing himself out of teams' consideration because, again, these are reported rumors, so we don't have any of this information firsthand. But you think about it, $25 million a year for a head coach who also wants to be the general manager. He wants to be able to buy the groceries and also cook.
Sure, Jerry Jones won't have any issue with that. He's a guy that's totally fine with wielding out control.
Yeah, and then the Saints, I believe, are looking for at least a first-round draft pick, 2 first-round picks, maybe. So that is a tough pill to swallow. It might just be a case where the Saints and Sean Payton are pricing them out of the market for some of these jobs, and really there's not many attractive jobs left, right? You got Denver, Houston, if DeMeco Ryans doesn't go there,
Right.
Cardinals. I mean, you're talking about some dumpster fires right
There's
now.
not appealing situations right now for Sean Payton. That's why I'm so curious about it too, because he could just decide to go back to broadcasting. I don't know if he totally loved it because, again, to bring this back to the Bucs, Bruce Arians in between going going to Tampa Bay,
right?
He did some broadcasting. He didn't really love it the way that he loves coaching. But I do find it interesting as well. You talk about Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy. They both have the same amount of Super Bowl wins.
That's right.
Why is Sean Payton viewed as like such a – and I do think he is a great coach, and obviously the Saints have a lot of winning despite only one Super Bowl. But they have the same amount of Super Bowls, and sure, Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers, and now he's working with the Cowboys team that's pretty talented. But he's so looked down upon compared to Sean Payton. I guess it's kind of like, you want what you don't have or something along those lines. Because I get it. I get the appeal of Sean Payton, but I don't think McCarthy is like the worst coach of all time. What if he takes him to the NFC Championship game next year? Is it a Gruden situation? It's like, oh, well, you didn't get him to the Super Bowl or you didn't win the Super Bowl?
It is for the Cowboys fans, Matt, because it's been so long. The Buccaneers have won 2 Super Bowls since the time the Cowboys were last in a Super Bowl. So I was in college the last time the Cowboys were in a Super Bowl. So it's crazy. So we appreciate the questions coming in and the super chat as well. Here's one from Teddy here. If we don't get Monken, Kubiak intrigues me. Definitely wants play calling experience and who has shown the ability to get creative regardless of the circumstances. That was interesting. I've heard some positive feedback from the Clint Kubiak interview. That was the first one that happened. And the thing with Kubiak is, he's the son of Gary Kubiak, former Broncos and Texans head coach, really kind of in that Kyle Shanahan frame of mind in terms of what they like to run. A lot of zone runs, quarterback bootlegs, play action, misdirection. Yeah, creativity. Nothing wrong with creativity. And but the Kellen Moore premise, a lot of Buccaneer fans were not on board with that. I've heard a lot of Buc fans on social media did not want him. Some did, so it was kind of split. But Kubiak, I think Kubiak and Pitcher, out of the guys that are maybe more of the relatively unknown faces, probably intrigue me the most. What do you think, Matt? Obviously, Monken has the experience, right, because he's done it in college and the NFL. But what are your thoughts on Kubiak?
Yeah, I think with Kubiak and more specifically Pitcher and Tierney, I like the fact that the Bucs are not just looking at all options, but planning for Tom Brady's not going to be here forever, might not even be back in 2023. So I like the idea of, and we talked about this, threading the needle where you want a guy that's attractive enough to bring Tom Brady back for another NFL season, and specifically in Tampa Bay. They can also work with a new quarterback in the future. And like we said, getting the best out of Daniel Jones, taking Josh Allen to the next level. Those are important stepping stones for these coaches. So I just like that. It's very creative. It's going in a new direction. Kubiak, I understand Bucs fans' frustrations about, well, he was coaching in Denver. You know, the things did not work out there. But there's a lot more to the story. The key, though, is that there's creativity. And I think if the Bucs build the right way through the draft this year and whatever they decide to do in free agency with adding more speed, you'll get the outcome that you were looking for.
That's right.
For the Bucs this season. I just think going with Kellen Moore, there were complaints about him that he ran into the same issues that Byron Leftwich ran into, which was, you relied too much on talent, that, you couldn't adapt. You couldn't appeal.
Too many first down runs.
Yeah, too many runs on first down. So I don't think you want anyone that's even remotely affiliated in the same conversation as Byron Leftwich. So I'm all for Kubiak. If he can bring in his style of offense and not trying to run, like, obviously he'll listen to calls of, hey, we want to run it in certain situations, but let him come in. Let the offensive coordinator do what he wants to do. Don't re-change the wheel or whatever it is. And I think that's what happened to Kubiak.
And I think with Todd Bowles is he wants nothing to do with the offense. He's just like John Gruden when he was here. Monty Kiffin, you run the defense, man. I'm over here with the offense. And I think that's what Todd Bowles wants. And so when he would say in the press conferences, yeah, we need to fix it. We need to tweak some things. We need to coach it better. It was, hey, offensive coaches, you're getting paid a lot of money. You figure it out. That's your job. I'm not, I'm a defensive coach. I can tell you what's not working, but I can't tell you how to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how defensive coaches see offense. So here it is. We're in Mobile, Alabama, 6:15. You know what that means, Matt? Gosh, in 5 minutes. Sorry, it's 6:15 Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
It is 7:15 Eastern Time. So if we say 6:15, don't freak out like you're in a time warp. We're just in Central Time, which we're not used to. But the great thing is it's Monday, Matt. And what does Monday mean when we're on the Pewter Report podcast?
It's roll call, baby.
That's right. So in 5 minutes at 7:20, because we do it at 4:20, but we're prime time now. So 7:20 in 5 minutes, I'm going to start talking about some of the edge rushers in this Senior Bowl class here that I like. There's a lot of really good names. And while I do that, Matt is going to put up the names of you guys and where you're from. So at 7:20, we're going to do roll call. So hang on tight for that. And we're excited tonight to get some Mobile barbecue. The practices will start tomorrow, and we'll have some player interviews probably after practice, but then mostly on Wednesday morning is when we get a chance to have the media days, media breakfast. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have the opportunity to really talk to some of these players and find out if they've interviewed with the Buccaneers too. And of course, the Buccaneers will interview pretty much most of these guys, but we believe Jason Licht, he usually comes to these things. I would imagine Jason Licht and Todd Bowles are here, and we'll try to find out if any of the players have had a chance to talk with the general manager and the head coach, because that carries a little bit more weight. That shows a little bit more interest in some of these draft prospects. So that's about the latest from the coaching standpoint. So there's going to be a new offensive coordinator. The hire might come down this week, or they still might continue to do some interviews later into the week. If the Bucs brass, meaning Jason Licht and Todd Bowles, are here in Mobile, they can either meet with these coaches individually if they're here, or they can do it via Zoom to find that new offensive coordinator. Matt, there's a new Celsius flavor.
Yes, there is, and I'm having it right now. It is the fantasy vibe.
Yes.
I've already had a couple of sips.
Right there, live Celsius.
I'll do one live for everybody on the show. It is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of it. We love Celsius because they have a variety of different flavors, but 7 essential vitamins. You also see the sparkling lime. That's a lemon lime.
Yep.
That's a new one as well. The fantasy vibe, great tasting, sparkling mandarin marshmallow. So a unique flavor that you really can't get with, really any other brand. So it's 7 essential vitamins, 0 sugar or preservatives. It's the healthy version of an energy drink that gets you through your day. So make sure you check out the newest flavors of Celsius energy drinks. #Celsius Live Fit. #Celsius Energy. Also, appreciate all of our fans in recent days, and you guys do it all the time too. Yeah. But sending us pictures of when you're having a Celsius, or when you're ordering it and things like that. We love seeing it on our social media. We really appreciate that. So just wanted to show some love as well.
So also we got a question here from Pewter 17. What about the defensive coordinator? Well, from what I understand, Todd Bowles is going to call the plays again this year, or he's going to pick one of the 2 co-defensive coordinators, either Casey Rogers, who called the plays for Bowles back in the Jets, and didn't have a fantastic record up there, right?
Nothing was spectacular. People remember like the Rex Ryan Jets. They don't really defense. I mean, they don't really recall the Todd Bowles type of defense.
Yep. So either Todd will call the plays himself, he will turn the play calling duties over to Casey Rogers, give him another shot at it, or he will turn the reins over to Larry Foote, who handled the back end, the linebackers and the secondary and the coverage units, as opposed to Casey Rogers, who handled the linebackers and the defensive line / outside linebackers. So basically, pass rush coach was Casey Rogers, pass coverage coach was Larry Foote. One of those 2 guys will be the defensive coordinator, or Bowles will call it. He's not going to hire somebody from the outside to come in. Christopher Oxentine here from Overland Park, Kansas, my old stopping ground, says, order the Celsius from the vitamin shop this week. Why? Well, he tells you. If you get it at the vitamin shop, apparently they have a sale. Buy one, 12-pack, get the second pack half off. So that's a hell of a deal there. So we are just about ready to start the festivities here, and we're going to be talking some Senior Bowl preview. So we're going to throw this up, and Matt is going to put all of your names on there. But we're going to be talking about the outside linebackers and edge rushers. Okay, so the guy on the screen right there. Actually, let's do the roll call. Let's do it officially, Matt.
Yes.
I jumped the gun here.
No, that's okay. I mean, we're all excited to be in Mobile.
You know, I like pass rushers, Matt. So there we go.
Absolutely. It's roll call, baby. Tell us where you're at, Pewter people. We have awesome fans all over the globe that watch from, United States to everywhere else in between. So as Scott starts talking, we will start putting on the screen where you're watching from. We are doing the show live from Mobile, Alabama. We're not even where we usually do the show from. So start putting your location in on the comments, and I will throw them up on the screen.
All right, so there's Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame. That's one of the headliners here. He's a player that maybe has a chance at the first round, kind of where the Bucs are picking around 19. And he's a player that had double-digit sacks the last 2 years, 10 sacks in 2021. I think he forced 6 fumbles that year, and then 10.5 sacks last year. So this is a player that is a proven guy in terms of production. He also has the ability to bull rush, speed rush. He is one of a lot of edge rushers that I really like in this year's Senior Bowl class. You've got Andre Carter, the second from Army. That's a player that Josh Capo has profiled over the weekend on pewterreport.com. Little bit of a project. He had over 14 sacks his junior year. The senior year, Army faced teams that were ready for him, and they really put a lot of double teams his way, tight ends, backs, etc. But he's got the length. If you know Tampa Bay, they like length. That's why they got a player like JTS who's 6'5". They've got Anthony Nelson who's 6'7". Carl Nassib's also 6'7". So they like those bigger, longer edge rushers. They also do like some of the smaller, undersized, quick guys too. You look at players like Cam Gill, who fits that mold. Certainly Shaq Barrett, 6'2", 250. So it's not like the Buccaneers are looking for one particular carbon copy of a pass rusher, but that's kind of what you're looking at there from Tampa Bay's perspective. Some of the defensive linemen that we've profiled that I happen to like. Auburn's got an interesting kid, Derek Hall, the edge rusher there. Georgia Tech's edge rusher, Keon White. I don't know that he's exactly a fit. He's more of like a power rusher. Central Michigan edge rusher Thomas Incoom is an interesting player because he had 11.5 sacks last year, but that was in the MAC. How is he going to fare against bigger, better competition? Missouri's edge player, Isaiah McGuire, 6'4", 266. He's a player that got better every year and is probably a middle round pick. He had 14 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks last year, a nice mix of power and speed there. The Iowa State kid, Will McDonald, is interesting because he's 6'4", 245, reminds me an awful lot of Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State. Both of those players played in a 3-4 scheme in college, but they really weren't edge rushers. They weren't the outside linebackers. They were actually kind of that 3-person down line defensive end that actually lined up a lot over the offensive tackle, kind of in the trenches. But at 6'4", 245, a player like Will McDonald is going to strictly be an outside edge rusher, and that's going to actually make him a better fit. But he banged in there, and he and Felix Anudike-Uzomah showed the toughness to kind of battle in the trenches. The thing with McDonald is he's just about 25 years old. He played at Iowa State for 5 years, but he had 40.5 tackles for loss, 34 sacks, and an astonishing 10 forced fumbles. We talked about Derek Hall from Auburn. I think he's definitely one to watch. And then a couple of defensive linemen. Oklahoma State defensive tackle Tyler Lacey. I watched a lot of him in the Big 12. This is kind of a twitchy, quick guy, 6'4", 295. He has pretty good size and didn't have a whole bunch of sack production, 11.5 sacks in his career, had 3 last year, but he did have 30 tackles for loss for the Cowboys. So he's an interesting player. Bowling Green has a defensive end, Carl Brooks, 6'4", 280, who probably is better off inside, moving into tackle and gaining about 10 more pounds. I don't know that he's got the suddenness and the twitchiness to play outside linebacker. He might be a power defensive end like Cameron Jordan in a 4-3 scheme like New Orleans. That might be a decent fit for him. But he had 10 sacks last year, 27 and a half sacks playing in the MAC. He's going to, like Thomas Incoom, he'll get a chance to show what he can do against bigger competition. But he's probably going to have to move inside. Those are a couple players that I like. And all these players I'm talking about, I did an article on pewterreport.com. We'll drop it in the chat here. But there's a lot of defensive players. We kind of focused on defense. Matter of fact, Matt, we just kind of did like a little informal poll here. Our whole Pewter Report staff focused on defense. We don't know crap about the offensive players here, really. Maybe Sly does. I think Sly does a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have Sly on in a little bit on this show, so he can break down some of the players on offense. But the reason why we're talking a lot about the defense right now is the Bucs have holes everywhere on the roster, but specifically, some of the most important positions. And we've mentioned this before, so we're not exactly breaking news here. But outside linebacker is a huge question mark going into next season because Shaq Barrett's coming off that Achilles injury, and Joe Tryanchenko. There are very, very mixed opinions on him. Some think he's he's right on pace. Others want to see him contribute more. But because Anthony Nelson might not be back next season, because Carl Nassib might not be back, the Bucs obviously have to address that. Inside linebacker, it's tough because, Scott, you said that, it's not the best inside linebacker class this year in the NFL draft. But if Levante David decides, I'm out, peace, it's been a great career, the Bucs are essentially screwed at inside linebacker. Because you're going to have Devin White and really nobody else. And then if that wasn't bad enough, then you're talking about corner as well. Carlton Davis signed the big contract last year. You have him. But outside of that, you got Zion McCollum is essentially your second cornerback on this team, unless they want to bring back D. Delaney again. But really, the big two questions are Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting. So will one of those guys return? Okay, well then, looking at a corner in this year's Senior Bowl, maybe wasn't as important by the end of free agency as it is right now. But the Bucs have to exhaust every single option. That's why we're going to see who Knight is talking to, who assistant coaches are talking to. Because if Jason Light's talking to you, maybe there's a little bit more importance and emphasis on that player than if one of the assistant coaches are. There are a lot of eggs in different baskets this year. In years past, we could definitively say, all right, the Bucs are going to be looking at these three positions. Right. This year, there's not even three positions on defense that they're going to be looking at. There's literally
they're going to be looking at all of them.
The options are endless.
Yeah. Well, like for example, you look at the defensive line, Matt, and you've got Lowell and you've got Vita Vea as returning starters there.
Right.
But then everybody else is gone, right? Mm-hmm. Will Golston, Akeem Hicks, Nacho, Pat O'Connor, Deidre Snott. They have 5 defensive linemen that are free agent. Now, a couple of those guys might be back for sure, but they could be spending a middle round pick on a defensive tackle this year, right? The defensive lineman, edge rusher. We talked about that. Anthony Nelson, Carl Nassib, Jennard Avery. All 3 of those guys are out. So Todd Bowles is going to want to get some defensive players in this draft. And, the cornerback position, Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, the safety position. They only have 2 safeties in the roster right now.
That's also true.
Antoine Winfield and Nolan Turner. You've got Keanu Neal, Logan Ryan, and Mike Edwards. All 3 of those starters at some point in time this season. And you think about it, that's 3, right? You have Levante David, who's a starting linebacker. Mm-hmm. You've got Will Golston, who started the games. You've got Akeem Hicks, who started games. Rakeem Nunez-Roches started some games when Hicks was out. Sean Murphy-Bunting started some games when Jamel Dean was out. And then you have Jamel Dean. That is, that's 9 players that started at least one game for the Buccaneers on defense that are not under contract this year. Oh, Anthony Nelson. Sorry. 10. 10. That's,
one for every finger.
Yes. That's 10 players right there that started at least one game, if not a couple, for the Buccaneers this year. So there is a lot to be done in free agency first, and then when it comes to the draft. So that's why we've spent a lot of time looking at defense, not just because I like defense. I do.
And Scott, just one more thing. The other cog in the machine is the fact that the Bucs financially are pretty strapped going into this free agency. Because Bucs fans could be asking right now, okay, well, all right, Anthony Nelson doesn't come back. Why not go get this year's version of Justin Houston or whoever it is? And that's not exactly going to be the case. The Bucs have to choose wisely who they were going to bring in. And as you wrote about in the Fab Five and have said it recently, they're going to go with the prove it deals, the 1-year deals with veteran players because they can't make the splashy superstar signing. And not every year you're going to hit a home run with finding Shaq Barrett, the third string edge rusher on another team, and he breaks your franchise single season sack record. That's not going to happen every single year. So the Bucs have to be creative and smart when it comes to not just finding their offensive coordinator, but how they will address free agency, because there's not going to be the star signing that I think Bucs fans are hoping for.
So the thing is why in the world did I pick an offensive player in the first round for our mock draft? And that's Boston College's Zay Flowers. Well, I've got a good answer. But we're back.
New place, figuring out the logistics of everything.
Can you hear us now? Okay. So we're back. So you might be wondering, okay, well, if the Buccaneers have these needs on the defensive side of the ball with all of these players, then why did we pick Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers with the first round pick of this year's draft? For a couple reasons. Number one, this is not a terribly deep draft when it comes to wide receivers, especially playmakers, guys like this that could be a real separator. As much as they missed Ali Marpet, their Pro Bowl left guard, their future Hall of Fame tight end, and Rob Gronkowski, Pro Bowl center Ryan Jensen this year. They really missed Antonio Brown. His ability to separate and stretch the field vertically. Scotty Miller was not the guy that was a high-speed guy to really draw favorable matchups and win those. Antonio Brown was the guy that they really missed to win those one-on-ones, separate, to make some things happen. There's a lot of AB, a lot of Tyler Lockett, and Zay Flowers. So you look at the offense, averaging just 18 points per game. Matt, they have a lot of needs. They have a lot of needs on the defensive side of personnel standpoint. Was not the weakness of this defense. It was the offense. That's why we went in a very heavy mock draft of defensive players. But first round pick, we went with Zay Flowers.
Right, and for all the holes that we talked about with the Bucs, on defense, the defense, at least for Tampa Bay, had them in most of the games this season, and it was because the offense wasn't able to get things going until late in the game. That's what essentially killed them for the majority of the season.
So we'll see how we're trying to fix some audio problems here. See, we're doing that. It is a road game for us here. We're trying to get through some technical difficulties. This does sound better now. All right. We do have a super chat here. Let's get to this. Refresh my memory. When is the last time the Bucs have had a mid-round draft pick or undrafted free agent really break out? Jason has to find some gems. The Bulls gets run in 2024. So does Light. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I mean, Jordan Whitehead was I don't want to say he was like a home run pick, but he obviously was able to get the second big contract with another team, of course. But, Jordan Whitehead was, a fourth-round pick? I would say anything from the fourth round on is considered, if you get a starter in those rounds, like that's pretty much a job well done in terms of that. So Jordan Whitehead's one of the first ones that comes out to mind. Obviously, the production from Scotty Miller has dropped off, but, he was a sixth-round pick with the NFC Championship game touchdown. So, that was a good moment there for him. But I mean, you look around the league, there's not a ton of teams that are getting the sixth round, seventh round, that's around high to start. So there's always like those times for the Tom Brady's, the Ray Sherman, these late
Alexander was linebacker. His career was going in the right direction, so had the injury, and that really went south from there. But really, in my opinion, not so much the three guys that Jason Licht has to find some gems. Honestly, he's got to do the job on day one and day two. Guys, what I mean by that is there have been plenty of solid players. There have been some players that have like if you look at this year's draft with Kate Otten, with Jacob Moore is probably the best pick. It was a punter that's not saying a whole bunch. Rashad White was third round. There's some.
But I think what the Bucs need to do is find another Tristan Wirfs. They need to find another Antoine Winfield. They need Jason's got to get his first and second round draft picks to be home runs this year, not just starters, but potential Pro Bowl players. In my opinion, that's what the Bucs have to do. I think last year's draft was a bunch of singles and maybe a double or two. He needs to hit some home runs because right now, if you go back and look, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, Robert Hainsey, Kyle Trask, the last couple of years, the draft has not been terribly great.
No, you pretty much said it perfectly. It's just a couple of good picks here and there, but need to be more consistent like Jason Licht was a couple of years ago. One thing that's always consistent, of course, is age rejuvenation. Let's hear a message from them.
As we age, our hormones decrease, both for men and women.
I was tired all the time, had no sex drive.
I was groggy.
I felt like I was 80 years old because everything hurt.
I came to age rejuvenation because I was tired all the time.
Bioidentical hormones has really made such an impact in people's lives.
I actually enjoy shopping. I actually enjoy shopping now.
Energy back.
Mind is sharp.
It was perfect for me. It was perfect.
With age rejuvenation, do it now.
Age rejuvenation today. Age rejuvenation today.
Age rejuvenation, folks. I've been using age rejuvenation since August, and I feel great. Hopefully, the audio is better. I think we solved the audio issue. Give us some feedback about that. But I'm going to give you some feedback about age rejuvenation. John Gilmore, former Buccaneer player. Yeah, that's a recent picture. John looks like he could play today, and looks great, feels great. And I feel the same way. I've got more energy. I'm not crashing late in the afternoon and needing a second Celsius. I sleep better at night because of the testosterone therapy. They got a special right now, $500 off your first testosterone therapy treatment. If you just mentioned Pewter Report, go to agerejuvenation.com. Click on, there's a place for you to do a free, no risk, no obligation consultation. And they've got 5 Tampa Bay area locations to serve you. So age rejuvenation, get your testosterone checked out. Maybe you need testosterone therapy. If you do, that's the place to get it done, just like I did. Age rejuvenation, helping you feel great here in 2023.
One of the things I'm really interested going into this year's draft class, and specifically for the Senior Bowl, is because there's so much uncertainty with Tom Brady. Obviously, the Bucs want Tom Brady back. It's like, how invested are the Bucs, and knowing that they have a later pick in the first round, how invested are they going to be in these quarterbacks in the Senior Bowl, the quarterbacks that are, supposed to be some of the higher prospects early on in this draft? Do the Bucs trade up, which they don't typically do? They like to trade back all the time. Logan Hall is a perfect example of that. How aggressive are they with looking at quarterback, this week and through the whole draft process? Because, it will be very telling how they feel about Kyle Trask in that type of situation, but it's obviously something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I don't know how you can really look at anything Kyle Trask has done from the preseason or from that brief appearance in Atlanta in Week 18, Matt, and say to yourself, we've seen enough to where we think Kyle Trask could contend for the starting job, or it'd be a situation where he's even the number 2. I think that this team would be making a mistake if they just automatically elevate him to number 2. Remember, Kyle Trask takes a while to learn the system. That was the case in Florida. That's been the case here in Tampa. And now he has to learn another system. He's not going to be in the Bruce Arians playbook anymore. So they basically have hit the restart button in year 3 for Kyle Trask. Yeah. And I don't have high hopes for that draft pick working out. I hope for the team's sake it does. Kyle's a good guy. I hope he ends up panning out. But, man, I have not seen any pulse from this guy in terms of being a legitimate, living, breathing starting quarterback in the league.
No, he hasn't. That's why, again, will Blaine Gabbert be back? That's something that, we're going to have to monitor as well. This whole time, it's a domino effect. It's offensive coordinator and Brady. You can pretty much put that at the same level. And then, again, kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Who's going to blink first? Is it Brady making a decision? Is it the offensive coordinator that then is the reason that Brady comes back? It's really tough to map out your future plans,
right?
If you're the Buccaneers, when you don't have an answer at the most important position.
Yeah. Gary says Trask was such a wasted draft pick. You don't really know until you know, right? And there were people that they were very anti Kyle Trask from day one. Those were probably Seminole fans, and even some Florida fans that I know that weren't really high on this pick. But I understood why they did it at the time. And in theory, you have a quarterback that could learn behind Tom Brady for a couple of years. It just hasn't worked out yet. And again, you're going to have Kyle Trask now entering his second system in year 3. And I hope this team brings in another veteran player to challenge him for the backup job and not just hand it to him, because I don't even think he's ready to be a number 2 at this point in time. Blaine Gabbert played better in the preseason and training camp. Remember, there was no Tom Brady for 10 days. Kyle Trask got a lot of reps.
He had every opportunity.
He really did.
There was
didn't beat out Blaine.
To still have Tom Brady, but then still be able to get all of the reps. There was never going to be a better opportunity for Kyle Trask, and just didn't take advantage of it. I see Eater saying Mariota, anyone? I'm okay there. I'm okay there. You don't need to have both, top 2 picks from that year's draft class with Jameis and then Marcus Mariota both playing for the Bucs. I think if you want to go like a Derek Carr route, if the Raiders were to release him, I would be fine with that.
I wouldn't want to trade for
with Tampa Bay. No, absolutely. Yeah. If you're trading for anyone, it's a rookie in this year's draft class. I don't think trading for any type of veteran, unless Aaron Rodgers was like, hey, I want to follow in Tom Brady's footsteps, which I don't think Aaron Rodgers wants to do that at all. That would be really the only one I would consider for the Bucs. But it would either be a rookie or just starting over again.
Louis Flash says Gabbs will be back to save the Bay. I love that. A hero is really what Blaine Gabbert was. Didn't get a chance to show those heroics on the field much, and I don't think Gabbert's going to be back. They like Blaine a lot as a person, and if Tom comes back for 1 year, I think Blaine comes back to be the backup, just because Tom likes Blaine.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like they just want to make Tom happy. That's the reason Leonard Fournette is back. That's the reason Antonio Brown came back for a second season before it really, kind of exploded. So whatever will make Tom happy, the Bucs will do. And I know what makes me happy is, when I make some picks over on Underdog Fantasy and I end up winning on those picks. And there's only one more NFL game that you can do this year, and that's the Super Bowl. Very excited for the Super Bowl.
There's not even a Pro Bowl anymore.
There's not even a Pro Bowl anymore. But you can make some Underdog Fantasy picks on the Super Bowl. And they have other sports as well that you can bet on. Hockey right now, the NBA right now as well. Baseball when they get back into season in a couple months. And then also golf and the UFC. So a variety of options. And it's the easiest way to get some action on all your favorite sports. And that's with Underdog Fantasy, and their pick'em game, their rivals game, is a lot of fun as well. You just pick an over or under on your favorite or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. You pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your pick'em slip, get every pick right, and take home some cold, hard cash. Use the promo code Pewter, that's P-E-W-T-E-R, and get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog Fantasy. Even if you learn from Plant City Math, you know that is a heck of a deal. So once again, double your first deposit up to $100 with Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code Pewter, P-E-W-T-E-R. That's Underdog Fantasy.
Underdog Fantasy. That's good stuff. We've got some good stuff tomorrow. We'll have some live football to watch.
Yes.
We're going to watch the practices over at Hancock Whitney Stadium, which is where the South Alabama Jaguars play. And we'll have another podcast for you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We're ironing out some audio issues. Sorry for any of those difficulties tonight. I think we have it situated now to where we have better audio. So
yeah, appreciate you guys bearing through with us. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media. We're going to be putting up a bunch of clips and highlights from the practices today. So if there's a player specifically that you're really interested to watch and they make a big play, we're going to have it on our Twitter, on our Instagram, YouTube, our TikTok. We're going to have it all over the place. So make sure you are covering, we're covering pewterreport.com and the Buccaneers, but make sure you're following us on all of our social media handles and, of course, our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. We'd really appreciate that and help us get those numbers up.
Over 10,100. So thank you, Pewter people. We love you guys very much, and we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Appreciate you guys helping us out with roll call too. It's always fun. Where do we have people from tonight, Matt? What was the exotic locales?
Saw some Canada in there. Saw some California. Those were the ones that really stood out. But yeah, good representation as well. Saw Kansas in there. So
Topeka. And
some home state.
Park,
some home state representation for you. So
well,
once again, appreciate everybody participating. So for Scott, I'm Matt saying thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.